This is Omar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. We're at Secret Boxing Gym. No secret that Joe Joyce is fighting this Saturday live on BT Sport against Christian Hammer. I'm joined by Adam Morallee of SJAM Boxing. Just must be relieved that Joe's back in the ring this weekend.
Yeah, it's great. He hasn't fought for almost a year, and we want to get him out short, sharp, quick succession. It's going to be out Saturday, July 2nd, and then September 24th he's out.
Now, of course, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone behind the scenes with yourselves and Joe Joyce, Frank Warren, Joseph Parker. So now that situation is all over, what can you tell me about that? Because it seemed a bit of a mess for the public looking in at it.
Yeah, look, I mean, myself and David Higgins were talking about the fight from early January. And Joe Parker's someone I know him through Guido. Guido and him used to live together, terrific guy. And I really thought that fight could happen. It's WBO 1 v WBO number 2. And it really should have happened. But obviously, it's about a contract with a promoter. So Joe's got his contract with Frank Warren. We agreed that deal easily. And then Parker and Higgins had to agree their deal with Frank Warren. As I understand it wasn't my deal, but as I understand it, the Warrens did everything they possibly could to make that fight happen. I was confronted about 2 months ago when we had July 2nd for this fight. If you remember, we were at the Fury fight. He agreed on live TV to take the fight. It was almost pretty much done. And then straight after that, I got a call and they basically said, I'm sorry, Parker's trainer, his wife's pregnant, he can't make July 2nd. Okay, no worries. We'll take an interim fight and then we'll fight you in September. Okay, that's fine. So that was all agreed. And then between that point and probably about a month ago, it fell out. It fell over between Joe Parker and the Warrens. And I think, credit to the Warrens, they did everything they possibly could to make that happen. But you can't force someone to sign a deal. So I don't want to get into the specifics of exactly why that deal fell over, but it did. I think Joe was given everything he wanted, didn't take it. He's now signed with Sky. So now Joe Joyce is exclusively with Frank Warren. Joe Parker's exclusively with Ben Shalom, who's a good guy. But now those promoters have got to reach an agreement because they own the rights exclusively. It's not up to me anymore.
And that complicates, obviously, everything because Joseph Parker, they will want him to fight on Sky. They've just signed him, so they're not going to ship him off to BT. They did, of course, put on a £1.2 million offer into Joe Joyce and yourself to fight on Sky Sports. As you said, Joe was exclusive to Frank and BT. So when you saw that offer come in, what was your initial reaction and Joe's initial reaction, Joe Joyce's?
Yeah, look, Joe will fight anyone. Joe wants to be in high-level competitive fights. I think from a managerial perspective at this time, Joe's the WBO number 1. That mandatory will have to be called by March next year. So we could just sit on his hands and fight people of a certain level, top 50, top 100 guys, and just wait until March. But Joe Joyce doesn't want to do that. Joe would fight anyone in the top 20, absolutely anyone. We are now having conversations with a lot of that top 20, but Joe wants to fight Parker, and he's not greedy, but Joe is the WBO number 1, and I think the fact that fight was almost made, it was pretty much there. Now we have this problem. Will it be on BT? Will it be on Sky? If it's on BT, Sky wouldn't be happy. If it was on Sky, BT wouldn't be happy. So now, because of Joe Parker's decision, he's made this way more complicated than it needed to be. And, what do I derive from that? He probably didn't want the fight in the first place.
Speaking to Frank, hang on, I think we've just got to move. We're still on here.
Okay.
So we roll at IFL. No, you're right. So I was speaking to Frank. His point of view was that Joseph Parker sent him a text saying, "Listen, I'm going to sign with Sky. They've given me a bigger offer."
Yeah.
Frank's point was that, well, that's fine, but you should have come back to me and said, "We'll renegotiate the thing with Joe Joyce, and we'll make you another offer and see if that betters the one that Sky had." So do you believe that put together with the wife's baby excuse of Andy Lee, do you think, in your opinion, Joseph Parker just doesn't want that work from Joe Joyce?
I think that's a kind of rather simplistic conclusion to reach. I think it's probably overly simplistic. I respect Joe Parker, and you've got to take absolutely everything into account. So a lot of his conversations, I imagine, with both Sky and the Warrens would have been about what happens after Joe Joyce, because he's probably thinking, being honest, there's a realistic chance he loses that bout. So what's bout 2? What's bout 3? Because promoters always want to get you on multi-fight deals. They don't want to promote the hell out of you in a big fight and then lose you. So I imagine it's probably part of a bigger promotional thing, but also the fact that no one really wants to fight Joe Joyce. No one does. He's retired over half the people he's fought. He's a terrible, difficult night's work, and that's factoring in. So I'd say it was a factor in Joe Parker's head, but I think it's overly simplistic to say, despite what everyone's saying, that he doesn't fancy Joe Joyce. If the conditions are right, I'm sure he'd take it.
Okay. Was there any conversation with yourself and George Warren and Frank Warren about potentially saying, would we be allowed to go and fight on Sky?
Yeah, I think, listen, I have a good relationship with both George and Frank, and we talk about, we're one team. We talk about all these issues together, and yeah, everything's considered, but what matters at the end of the day is what is best for the Joe Joyce business, right? And that's what matters, and we'll take whatever measures we need to. I don't think any fights have, Joe Joyce and Joe Parker's texting Joe. They're in conversation. That fight should happen. And I think it happens in boxing a lot, where you have two promoters with two different networks, and it stops a fight happening. We should be able to get round this. Really, there should be a solution. I get the frustration that people have that we were this close to making a fight and then someone jumped over. And this isn't anything against the Warrens, BT, Sky, Ben Shalom. I'm just saying it's challenging now when you have two different networks to bring it together. But Frank Warren and George Warren have worked really hard for Joe Joyce, and we're one team.
Okay, my final question is, should he, of course, beat Christian Hammer? He is in line there for the winner of Usyk and Joshua on August 20th. You said he'll be out September 24th. So from your comments, it looks like he's going to have one more before getting that world title shot. Yep. Again, what opponent are we looking at? I know you guys would like Joseph Parker, but as I just said, he's signed with Sky, so I don't think they'll want him to fight on BT. Who are you looking at?
So I've got the top 20 out. We've gone through the top 20, BoxRec top 20, and we've made offers to pretty much everyone who is available in that top 20. So obviously Usyk's tied up, Joshua's tied up, Fury's tied up. We're talking to Dillian White's people. You look down there, Derek Chisora said on many occasions he doesn't want to fight Joe Joyce, so forget that. Tony Yoka. I mean, you go down the BoxRec top 20, Robert Hellenius. There's lots of conversations going on. Someone actually said Jarrell Miller to me yesterday. That could be interesting, but I don't. It
brings a lot of different issues to the table.
It does bring a lot of different issues to the table, but Joe Joyce just will fight. He's not going to sit on his laurels. He's not going to rest on his laurels. He wants to be in big competitive fights. But as you know, a lot of those people are fighting each other. Look who Andy Ruiz is fighting. I think Deontay Wilder's coming back. I mean, remember, Joe's number 2 in the WBC as well.
Yeah.
So the Warrens are making offers to people in the top 20, and we'll have a good, live, competitive opponent. Not disrespecting Christian Hammer either. He's a live opponent.
Okay, well, it's a shame about the whole Joseph Parker situation, but that has moved on now. He takes on Christian Hammer this Saturday. As you've just said there, September 24th, a big fight against a top guy, and then the world title shot next, hopefully early next year. Adam Morallee, thank you very much for your time here on IFL, and we'll see you at the Wembley Arena on Saturday, all right?
Cheers, Umar.
Welcome, Team Everlast, to the Team Everlast Fitness app. Download the Everlast Fitness app and find your greatness within.